All right, RJ, we are here at Queen Anne Beerhall for their winter hockey hall, having a good time. Got the Christmas tree behind me. I'm digging that. And we are fresh from, Climate Pledge, not Climate Pledge, or even a T-Mobile. Because that's what Winter Classic is going to be. Sorry, a pretzel was just delivered in front of me, so I got very distracted very quickly. We were just at T-Mobile. We got to do the media skate, RJ. It was my first time being in there, being able to see the rink, see what's going on. It's incredible. Like, it's unreal, everybody. Like, it's going to look so good. I mean, they were still building some of the sets around it, but it's awesome, RJ. It's electric.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one of the more special experiences I've had working in hockey, for sure. And Dylan, I don't blame you. I know you can't keep a straight face with that pretzel right there in front. You should show everybody. Can you hold it up? Will that work?
I don't know that I can hold up the tray. But I will definitely get a little bite in here while you...
Definitely. All right, I'll hold it down for you.
This is from Sean, ECH community member, so thank you very much for that.
Taking very good care of us. Thank you so much, Sean. Really appreciate it. But yeah, it was an awesome experience. I mean, to go out and skate on that ice and see just a baseball ballpark around you. I mean, neither of us have experienced anything like that in our lives before. And to do it, with other members of the media too, with friends, with people we know, with each other. I mean, that was just a cool moment in our friendship, right? To go out and get to do that. And I mean, is there any detail or moment that really stood out to you from the skate? Because I know you were telling me too, we've done a lot of public skates, right? Just, where you're skating out in circles, open skate on an ice rink, right? And you can be tempted to kind of keep your head down a little bit and just skate in front of you and pay attention to the turns and all that. But when you really remember to keep your head up and just look at what's around you, right? I mean, what was your biggest impression from that?
Just that it dawned on me that was the first time I've really skated outside. That's the thing that really stuck with me was, at first it's been 4 years since I skated. I was just making sure I didn't fall. I could get my sea legs back under me pretty quick, which I was thankfully able to do. I was able to step on, remembered instantly what to do, was able to head out there. And it was one of those things where at first you're focused on the ice and you're focused on, okay, let me make sure I get a picture in. I want to remember this. Let me get a little video. Oh my gosh, look at the detailing of the ice. Those blue lines are beautiful with the rope on them, all that kind of stuff. And then, when we were given the 5-minute warning, I kind of looked up and then I remembered. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in T-Mobile. I need to look around. I need to take some of this in. Let me make sure I remember that aspect of it. The roof was on. It's been drizzling all day. But that being said, because it was nighttime and because they had the big stadium lights on, you don't really see above you anyway. It was all dark, right? It was unlit. It was all dark. So it felt like it was completely outside. You wouldn't have known that the roof was on. That was really cool. So just being able to get the feeling of skating outside was really unique. SoCal boy, not like I'm ever going to experience that really. And then on top of it, to have, the setting around you where you're looking down and at center ice, there's the Winter Classic logo. And it's got the logo for the team that you're covering and you follow and you've watched every game for and you talk about constantly and it's around you and you're seeing it come together for them as well. It was really, really special.
Yeah, and it's going to make that impact on the players as well. And it's something that I don't think I could fully appreciate until I got out on the ice myself. The players always talk about it's a very special game. It's a great experience for them in their career. It's one of those, I think it was Jordan Eberle that said, it's one of those that when you're done, that's what you're going to look back at and be like, yeah, I played in one of those. And I mean, to an extent, it feels like, right. I mean, they kind of have to say something like that. Obviously, you're going to say, it's a special event, but being out there on the ice and just feeling the emotions from that, you realize it's all true what the players say, that it is a really special event for them. And, with the nighttime, like you mentioned it, what you notice is you notice the ballpark. You notice the bleachers around you. You notice, all the different set pieces that are taking place. They were working on, I think they had finished the stage with the shipwreck and everything. That was very noticeable. They were kind of testing out the instruments, right?
Yeah.
Got some cool guitar solos, that we could skate to. But, it's all the atmosphere type of things that really just hit you so much.
Yeah, you get that aspect of it. I mean, just walking out there, right? They lead us out through a tunnel and you're stepping foot at field level into a baseball park, and you just look up and you get the lights and you see all the stands. And yes, there wasn't 40,000 people cheering for us as we walked out there, but that was like still a very surreal moment of like, oh, this is what a professional athlete feels like. It's pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty cool. So you had that aspect of it, which was really neat. And then just the fact of, once you got the skates on and you got out there, you're just skating with friends. And I thought that was really cool. You had mentioned it in the car, RJ, I'll let you expand on it, but just the fact that everybody was really present in the moment with each other. So it wasn't a lot of like, people trying to show off or people trying to get their moment in with something, right? We were all pretty much on board with the same thing of like, it's kind of crazy that we get to do this, and we're all going to enjoy it together.
Right. I mean, and that's one thing that was really cool to see too, because look, we are media. We are hockey media, and part of our job is to, document things and put them out on social media, right? That's what we do so often. And this just had a different feel to it because everyone realized how cool and important this was, that everyone just kind of put out their obligatory one photo or video on social media, and the phones just went away. Like, you know what I mean? Weren't posting anything else. You were taking more pictures. We took a lot of pictures together, and, videos, of course, had to get Dylan skating. That's a rare occasion. You don't get to see that very much. But, all the social media just went away, and I think we were all just kind of living in the moment, which was really cool, especially for people who, like, we don't always get to do that.
Yeah.
As fans kind of get to, always live in the moment if you're at a game. I mean, that's what you do. But, we have responsibilities usually. If something cool happens, we got to go tweet about it. We got to go clip the video, all that stuff. But none of that tonight. It was just living in the moment.
Yeah, it was nice to be friends with everybody instead of, pseudo competitors to each other, right? Like, it's always, at games especially, it's always, the realities of this is something happens, everybody's trying to get the tweet out, everyone's trying to get the best commentary on it, right? You're competing for likes, you're competing for views. It's the reality of the business side of what we do. And for this to just be a time where you could just skate with them and just have fun and kind of see a different side of them, see a different side of some of the people around the team, or larger media people from the NHL, league-wide stuff was, I thought, really interesting and a lot of fun. So that stuff was all so cool. I mean, I can't wait to get back in there, see it from above, because I've now only seen it from the ground level. I'd love to see what the whole picture looks like. I guess updates construction-wise for everybody. I mean, things are really coming along. They had a lot of the topographic map, the underwater map covered for us to like walk on to get out there. So we weren't able to really see much of that, but the dock, setup looked really awesome. The decals on everything looked great, like on top of the dugouts for both teams looked really sharp. I think that's going to play beautifully on TV. I mean, the NHL's really kind of going all out for this one. It does feel like also like there's more stuff going on than at other Winter Classics. I know you talked with the NHL official who talked about the raised outfield at T-Mobile kind of allowing them to do that.
Right. I mean, they have a lot more possibilities than in previous years because of the elevation there, and it seems like they're really trying to take advantage of it. Just so many more things on the field, whether it's the main stage being that cool shipwreck, or, I mean, they had the TNC set that was ready to go, and it's in a little boathouse. Like, it can have a little bit of detail and a little bit of elevation to it, right? And that's going to look really cool. Yeah, they had the what do you call it? The
Dock?
Yeah, the dock where the players walk out. Yeah. I always think of walking the plank, right?
Yes.
Because, I mean, that's what it feels like. You're going out there and you're like, they even have a little, like, plank that extends from it, and, you kind of walk the plank. That's what they should do when they get penalties, right? Is just have them walk out there, walk the plank instead of the penalty boxes. So, I mean, that was really cool to see. And, and also just like things that are going on with the league. We had a bunch of influencers in there, like kind of skating before us. But, they had some cool people. Like I saw like Reagan Rust skating out of there, good women's hockey player and, Instagram star. And I'm sure there's a lot of great content in the works with this game as well.
Yeah. And then one of the other things that I thought was interesting, RJ, is you're seeing an NHL rink and it doesn't always look like this on TV. I'm going to be curious. It's going to be curious for this one. When you're around an NHL rink and it's got all the fixings and the trimmings of that, right? You've got the ice, you've got the boards, you've got the glass, you've got the benches, and then you don't have anything else, right? Like there's nothing around it. It's just existing in this space kind of on its own. We're so programmed to think of them with seats right up against that glass, right? And right up against and along the benches and along the penalty box. One of the things that really struck me and I thought was interesting and cool was everything seemed so small. The benches seemed so small because they don't have this massive coliseum around them, right? There's just empty space. The penalty boxes seemed ridiculously small. I'm like, no wonder they like struggle to fit 4 humans in there, much less athletes in pads. I thought that was really interesting. You start to realize kind of how small it all really is from a player's perspective. I thought that was really interesting. That's not something I'd ever really experienced before, because you can go to a public skate at any rink and it's the same dimensions, right? It's got the blue lines, it's got center ice. But to see a rink that NHL hockey is going to be played on, and to see it in such a unique atmosphere where there isn't a building right close around it, like if you do go to a public rink, or a bunch of stands right there, it kind of gave me a new appreciation for what the realities of what the players have to go through really is, which is they're really crammed on a tiny little bench out there with like not a lot around them, not a lot going on. When they go to the penalty box, they're really sitting in like this little timeout room where they got to think about their actions and what they just did. And I thought that was something that I was not expecting, but it's something that I really kind of walked away thinking about.
Yeah, and the open air kind of aspect of it too, especially what struck me was the penalty box, because there's not a whole lot of separation. You got the scorer's table in between, but there's no real the solid glass in between the scorer's table and each penalty box. And of course above it, like there's no netting. Really, there's just a little bit of netting on each side, but on the sides of the rink, there's no netting. It's just it's as if you dropped a rink into a giant open field, and you just have this hockey rink that's kind of in the middle, just out in nowhere. And it's just such an interesting setup, even more so than I think past ones that we've gone to. Like I remember at Levi's Stadium, and any kind of like a football stadium, the things are closer on you. You've got like the sidelines and everything, that are around the rink. But in a ballpark, there's just so much space.
Yeah, it's a lot of open air stuff. It's such a unique setting and it's such a unique experience for so many reasons. I want to talk a little bit about the details of the rink, RJ, because this was really the first time that you're able to get right up on top of it, right? So one of the things that I noticed was the ice was incredible. Like that's some of the best ice that I've ever skated on. It was clear, it was crisp. It made that sound, RJ, right? When you first stepped on it, it's that fresh ice sound as your skates dig into it and it cut through it and you just kind of glide over it. That was incredible. The ice, I don't think it's going to be a problem at all for the players. We were able to, stop, turn around, all that kind of stuff. Nobody had any issues on it. Even as it started to get used, right? The laps were accumulating, all that kind of stuff. It still played really, really well, at least for what we were trying to do. I'm sure, a player could find something to complain about. But the ice was really, really solid. I think, probably have similar weather day of. Maybe it'll be a little bit warmer. The sun will be out. It looks like. Hopefully it stays that way. But I think the ice is going to be rock solid. I don't think they're going to have to worry about that. I certainly don't think they're going to have to worry about puddles or anything because it felt like perfectly cooled.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly top 3. I feel like that's not giving it enough credit. I was going to say top 3 best ice I've ever skated on, and I've skated on the ice at Climate Pledge Arena. I've skated on some other NHL ice. The ice was fantastic. I mean, you can't really ask for more, from amateur skaters like us. Like you said, NHL players, they can find something to complain about. They're finely tuned machines. But I don't think there should be any issues with it. I know earlier in the week there was some maybe, humidity concerns that aren't always like the most fun to deal with. But the weather just seems like it's really playing along, doesn't it, Dylan?
It does. And, like I said today, there's a little bit of drizzle. They were able to close the roof. This is the whole point of them doing it there and having that roof. It all works perfect in tandem with itself. So I think the ice isn't going to be a concern. I think that's going to make the game play really, really well, and I think that's going to make for just an excellent product. Going to make for a really fun game. I'm excited about that. It's not going to turn into a bunch of players slogging through puddles back and forth where the game can kind of turn into, issues like that. One thing that I was curious about was going to be what the sun's going to be doing, right? We didn't really get to see because the roof was closed and stuff. I wasn't quite able to orient myself, like where north is, where's the sun going to be. It's a midday game, so it should be just pretty much overhead. But it'll be interesting to see as the game goes on what ends up glaring, not just for the TV cameras, but for the goaltenders.
That's right. So the rink, it has a like first base to third base orientation, right? Where one net's, kind of first base side, the other net is third base side. And I believe, let's see, because home plate is the southwest corner of the ballpark.
Okay.
So it's kind of it's kind of oriented northwest to southeast. And so, the sun, again, noon should be kind of overhead, although it's in the winter, so it's probably going to be a little bit lower. But yeah, the sun I don't think should be too much of a factor, but yeah, you never know. And I see you pulled something up here, Dylan.
Right, so I pulled up one of the pictures we took, which was of one of the center ice, not the center ice dots, but one of the face-off dots.
Yep.
The 4 face-off dots that they have. And it's got an NHL logo in it, and then it's got a compass around it. And as you're talking about that, I pulled mine up, and sure enough, that means that's pointing north.
Yeah.
Like that compass is aligned with where the rink is, so that
I think it is, 'cause if
the
you're
compass
looking at-
graphics are facing north. Because based on where home plate was in conjunction with where we took that picture, that means the compasses on the ice are actually facing north. So that's really, really cool. That kind of gives us more of an idea. So they are going to be playing east-west then, for sure.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if glare becomes an issue for either goaltender. My guess is it won't, just because it is midday and mid-game, so we shouldn't have too much of a problem there. I like that. Let's go ahead and talk about the on-ice graphics, though, RJ. We touched on it a little bit earlier. The blue lines are gorgeous, everybody. I absolutely am in love with these blue lines. Have kind of like a rope effect through them, a braided rope. They look beautiful there. The face-off dots, like I just said, maybe we'll throw in on the edit something about that. Otherwise, we'll put them on the socials already. They have the NHL logo followed by the compass. Like I said, I'm pretty sure then the compass is actually legit, straight up to where it needs to be. And then the graphic at center, RJ. It looks so cool in person. It's so crisp, right? And that's something that I think gets lost sometimes when you are going to public skates, right? You're not skating on an NHL ice surface where they have an NHL crew that is going to be painting that stuff on, applying the decal underneath, and then applying ice so methodically over it that you just get this like HD graphic beneath you.
Yeah, the work that went into that, you can see it in the results for sure. And the logo, too, is just fantastic. I know it came out before pretty much anything else did with this game. That logo's been out for a long time, so I think it was a little desensitized to it, but that's something that certainly struck. Even our friends in the Vegas media were talking about how cool that Winter Classic logo is, how perfect it is for the game. The other thing I noticed along the rink, though, that I thought was really interesting was on the boards. Did you notice this, Dylan? They had a little, numbers like a clock and the score and everything that were embedded into the boards so that the players can see that, because that's something we kind of take for granted at an indoor game, is there's a big Jumbotron. The players can look up and they can see the time, the score, all the information they're going to need to know at a quick glance. You can't do that at T-Mobile Park. There's one big screen, but it's off to one side. You have to go look at the benches, and you can't always do that if you're a player playing in the middle of the game. So on the corners of the rink, it's something that you should, hopefully fans will be able to notice, because it's kind of far away.
Yeah.
But they do have the score, the time, and a few bits of information there for the players to look at. I don't think I've seen that before. Have you?
I've never seen that. I've certainly never seen that for an NHL game, and I would love to ask the players, maybe tomorrow after practice or certainly after the game, how much they use that, right? How much they end up using that, relying on that, if it changes how they play a little bit, because, hey, let's say your team has an offensive possession towards the end of a period. You're not having to worry about the bench trying to tell you how much time you have as you're trying to make a play or read the situation if, say, you're a defenseman in the back. It's just part of your sight line. As you're scanning, looking to make a play, you've got how much time you have left right there counting down, so you know exactly what you can do. What kind of plays you could try to pull off here in that situation. That's got to be something that, as a player, I would find immensely helpful, and it's something that I would probably want in my everyday game situation.
Right. You have players a lot of times, looking up, checking at the Jumbotron, but you can't always do that, especially when it's at eye level on the boards like that. And especially, I think they had a penalty clock on there too, so that's really valuable too. If you're on the power play or you're shorthanded, knowing how much time is left for that guy in the box is going to be really huge for you.
Definitely. Now, we talked about it earlier, kind of all of the different things around the ice, RJ. Do you have a favorite? Seeing them now more complete, right? We're kind of getting an idea of what they look like. Does one really stand out to you and you just go like, that's what I'm going to really remember was seeing that piece out there? Is it the shipwreck with the Kraken? Is it the docks? Is it the TNT little boathouse set that looked pretty cute? I'm not going to lie.
You know what? I think it's the docks, actually. That path for the players to go down. And I think that's going to be, like, when all is said and done from this game, one of those really iconic, I'm sure someone's going to take a fantastic photo of it, right? Of both the teams just on their way through those docks, heading onto the ice. And that's something I remember from the Stadium Series game in LA at Dodger Stadium, where they had the players, I think they came out from the outfield, actually, right, and walk. It's a long walk. It's a big trek. But when you see a full hockey team, 23 players strong, just all walking out there, whether it's for warm-ups or the game, that has a real image that kind of gets seared in your mind. And just going with the nautical theme, they've done it perfectly. They have, they like the wood effects. They've got rope. They have lots of rope.
Yes.
There's a big pile of rope that they have that they still haven't used all of it. So I'm curious what they do with the rest of it. But that's the part that really stood out to me. How about you, Dylan?
It's one of those things where I thought it was going to be really cheesy, and who knows, maybe it will end up being a little cheesy on the actual broadcast, on the actual day of. Maybe it's because it's just the biggest thing, RJ. But the shipwreck with the tentacles coming up to crush this, it looked like a tugboat kind of thing. I'm sure somebody out there can correct me in the comment section. But I just kept coming back to it because it was really an impressive piece. Like, it's one of those things where, like I said, render-wise, I was like, oh, okay, you're gonna go there. Okay, you're gonna go there. But it actually looks really, really solid. It looks really impressive. I'm on board with that. I love the boathouse. The boathouse looks it's such a nice touch. It really helped make it feel outdoors too, being down there. Like, that's something that I got to imagine. Also, if you're a player and you're looking around, you're used to having a bunch of fans up against the glass there, right? They're all seated there around you. And as you're looking around, you probably learn to ignore them to some extent. Now, I know I've heard stories of, like, Wayne Gretzky knew where, like, all these specific season ticket holders were around Edmonton, and then, like, when he came back, like, it was always interesting, or he knew, like, where he could look for certain people, and I'm sure all the players kind of do that a little bit, playing 41 games in front of the same group of people. You're going to start noticing people. You're going to start maybe picking favorite people as far as, like, reactions go and stuff like that. But with this, not having that, right, where you're looking out into space, essentially, because your eye at that point, it's looking for something close on the other side of the glass because it's glass. You're not used to something where you're going to be looking really far out. I am curious to see if the players kind of latch on to those things to just kind of know where things are, or use that to center themselves, try to get back into the moment, just because professional athlete needs to do that from time to time.
Yeah, it's something that we, like beer league or whatever, we're not necessarily used to. We don't have crowds like that. But yeah, it can throw you off, and especially goalies. Sight lines. You are looking for kind of orientation points, and I'm interested to maybe ask tomorrow, like Joey Decorda, Chris Drieger, about that. Like, what do you see, that kind of helps you orient yourself or know where you are in your crease? Because you play so many games in the same NHL arenas, and you get used to that kind of thing. But especially for a goalie, I think it might throw them off the most.
Yeah, that's a good point. So those are really interesting things that I don't think I would have ever thought of had we not been out there and kind of like loosely in the situation the players are going to find themselves in. But it really adds like a whole new dynamic of what there is to think about from their perspective, and what really goes into this from an actual game standpoint. Because we've spent a lot of time talking about everything that goes into it from like a logistics standpoint of setting it up, building the rink, getting everything in there, selling tickets, getting fans in there, making sure fans have a good time. Tomorrow we're going to have the media tasting event where we're going to try all the food that's going to be there. So stay tuned on social media for that. Can't wait. I've signed up. I'm going to do it, everybody. I'm going to try the fried chicken ice cream. The fried chicken flavored ice cream. I don't know what I was thinking when I agreed to that, but I'm going to give it a go. So we're going to do that tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun. But we've really focused on all of those things. We've never, until now, had the ability to kind of think of it from a player perspective and what that's really going to entail. And that was something that I wasn't expecting coming out of this experience. And now it's like the only thing I can think about is like I want to be able to ask these guys all of those questions that we now have.
Right. I mean, I went into this thinking it was just going to be a really fun event to just enjoy, and it certainly was that. But I think it's going to help us cover this game a lot better. Just having been down there on the ice, there's so many things that, I wouldn't have thought of really that the players are just going to be dealing with. And it's going to make tomorrow a lot more interesting, that's for sure, as the players get to step on the ice for the first time, because they still haven't skated on that ice, and we'll see what they think of it. I'm interested to see, certainly for the guys who have played outdoor games in the past, how it compares with what they've seen in the past, because it's just a different kind of setup. So I think that's probably going to be the biggest part of tomorrow, is just finding out how all the players react.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. It'll be interesting too to see if they have the roof off for practice. I think that's going to be really interesting. So yeah, it's that all that stuff's going to be a ton of fun. Don't know when we'll get this video out. Maybe it'll be tomorrow morning, in which case it'll be today for everybody watching. But yeah, I'm really intrigued by that. I'm really looking forward to it. As far as like talking about the game, RJ, we've kind of put that off, right? As far as the game itself, the fact that they are playing the Vegas Golden Knights, what's going on with them, what's going on with the Kraken. We were putting that off because, look, the Kraken had other games, right? They had other games, but they played their last game before the Winter Classic last night, RJ. They pick up a win, extend the point streak to eight games, on a 4-game win streak if you're the Kraken. Vegas was in a bit of a slump. They had a 5-game losing streak. They won their game heading into the Winter Classic as well. Do you have any initial impressions of what you think this game might be, what it's going to look like? I mean, we know a little bit about Vegas, right? They're going to try to attack through transition. They're going to play that Bruce Cassidy style of hockey where it's just kind of, unrelenting, and they're going to, activate their D when they have the opportunities to, right? Get Shea Theodore involved. Get it, Alec Martinez. Is he healthy now?
I don't know.
I don't remember if he's healthy. He's been in and out all year. But it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like against this Kraken team that's kind of finally found themselves this year.
Yeah, I don't think it'll necessarily look like what it did on the scoreboard. Do you remember? They were testing out the scoreboard. They had a score of 4-4 late in the third period on I think 13 and 15 shots for each team. So I'd be very surprised to see that.
With 2 coincidental minors for each team, so 3-on-3 hockey.
Right, so 3-on-3 hockey before overtime. So I don't think we'll see that. I mean, if we do, I guess they'll have known ahead of time. And you heard
it's scripted. It's scripted. Don't ever believe anything ever again.
Yeah, you heard it here first, everybody. But I think we'll see something that's kind of the opposite of that. I think we'll continue to see maybe another low-scoring game like the Kraken have been playing. Also, just because I think the teams are going to need some time to kind of feel each other out, feel the environment out, and that might lead to a lot of kind of dump and chase hockey early on. It might lead to teams trying to simplify things, but I think the game is going to get a lot better, a lot more interesting as it goes on. I mean, the one exception I could see is if there's a bunch of mistakes early on, just caused by everything being so different. What do you foresee?
Well, we've seen both of those things play out in these outdoor games in the past, right? Whether they've been Stadium Series games or Winter Classics. We've seen the games that start off slow as both teams just adjust to everything before they can really get going, and it'll take a period or two. And then we've seen the games where one team especially usually will come out, really try to play aggressive, really try to go on the attack, try to set a tone early, and because the conditions are just that tiny bit off or that just little bit different, whether it's the sight lines, it's the ice, it's the temperature, whatever it is, they're not able to fully execute on being able to do that, on being able to just go all out like that. And we see them make mistakes, and you'll see games maybe get a little ugly early going back on those teams that try to take that initiative and almost make the first move. Very different from a normal NHL game where that's normally rewarded, and that's the position you want to be in. Sometimes in these situations it doesn't end up that way. It's not favorable to the team that kind of takes that chance. I got to think, right, given the way the Kraken have been playing, they're probably not going to be a team that's going to go out there and try to set a tone early. If any of these two teams decides to do that, it would be Vegas, right?
I would have to think so. I mean, Vegas, they'll try and get on top of you early on. But, I don't think also, they're coming off not the best stretch, right? 4 losses before their most recent win against LA. I don't think they want to necessarily throw this game away early too. In my experience, I think you'd agree because, we've watched a lot of these outdoor games. It does feel like the road team has a bit of an advantage just because they're not dealing with, I mean, you could argue what the reason is, but usually because they're just not dealing with all the craziness of everything. But I think, that David says we see our buddy Jonathan West hosting behind us at Queen Anne Beerhall. Still a great time here as we get around 10 p.m. But I think where was I?
Yeah, I mean, you were making a good point. It's one of those things where we'll find it. We'll see what they've got going on, and when it actually comes time to it. But I think the Kraken are probably going to be more of the team on the defensive. I understand what you're saying. Home team's got to deal with a little bit more. Maybe there's a little bit more pressure. You certainly got a little bit more going on as far as your family's more likely to be in town and around for the event, and you're trying to show them maybe around the city, right? The city that you're used to being in, versus if you're the visiting team, you can kind of just come in and like settle, and everybody knows why you're there. Whereas, you have
I remembered. So, okay, what Dave Haxtell was talking about actually after the Flyers game a couple nights ago is he was saying he was really proud of the Kraken for not getting distracted, because they had obviously the Winter Classic right in front of them, which, the guys can kind of compartmentalize that. You don't look more than one game ahead, but they had a lot of family in town. They had a lot of other, media responsibilities. They had so much else going on that would have been the easiest game to just get distracted, right? And just maybe not play like yourselves. And they didn't do that. They got a gutsy win out of that game. And so I think, if anything, that's probably a good sign heading into this one.
Yeah, and then I think last thing to really talk about when it comes to the game, RJ, as we kind of do like a loose preview here, would be Riker Evans gets sent back down to Coachella Valley. Justin Schultz is up. He's going to be in the lineup. We're going to see, I would imagine, a very similar, if not identical, lineup to what we saw in that Flyers game. Maybe Berkey moves up to the second line, flips spots with Brandon Tanev. What do you think about that lineup? I mean, they used it to great effect in that Flyers win.
I was happy with it because they didn't really mess with the chemistry. I mean, you've got the Gord line staying together, being great. You've got Matty Benier's line being the true first line that we know it can be, and it all kind of worked out really well. Obviously, Riker Evans, you hate to see him go back down to Coachella Valley. He's an NHL caliber player. We all know that. I think Dave Haxtell knows that. It's just difficult when you've got 7, I mean, you could argue 8, right? NHL caliber defensemen on the roster, and, somebody has to be the odd man out. And if it's going to be Evans, because Schultz was playing well, then you might as well have him getting games in Coachella Valley and continuing to develop that way. You don't want him in the press box for that long. So I think overall, it's the right call if you're not going to play him, and Justin Schultz does deserve the shot.
He does, although, it would have been great to get the kid in there for the Winter Classic game. I know a lot of people, especially on Discord, are very vocal about that not happening now, unfortunately. It would have been great to see that. Look, it's a call they're making. They obviously believe in it. Justin Schultz was able to get that overtime winner, looked a lot more comfortable and confident as the game went on, was able to shake off the rust and get in there, get things going. So we'll see what they have in store for us. I could also see wanting the more veteran presence for a game like the Winter Classic. There's already going to be a ton of emotion. Everybody's already going to be a little bit on edge, thrown off from their routine. Do you really want a young kid who's only played a handful of NHL games to be thrust into that situation? Kind of do what we talked about. Maybe he tries to do too much early on and you're not quite able to do it, or the other guys aren't on that same page. They're not ready for something like that. So I do understand wanting to go with that veteran presence, especially after he showed he could come up clutch, he could still make the plays. It's not going to be like a repeat of LA kind of thing, right, from Justin Schultz. So I understand why Dave Haxtell is doing what he's doing, and I think, do you think that does hint towards what the Kraken might try to do? They're going to try to be a little bit more conservative out there, try to take a slower approach, or do you think I'm reaching here?
Well, I mean, I think they might have been trying to do that anyway, and I think they trust Riker to do that when the time calls for it, right? They put a lot of responsibility on his plate when he came up, when we got his debut in the league, right? But yeah, for this kind of game, you're right. I think the veteran presence, probably what you're going for. Someone who's been there before, who's done this before. But don't worry, we have not seen the last of Riker Evans, I would say.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. Really looking forward to that. Just coming up on 10 o'clock here, we're going to have to lead the stage here. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. But yes, everybody, Winter Classic is coming. It's finally here. It's definitely real for me now after being there. It's a wonderful experience. Looking forward to the practices tomorrow, being able to talk to the players after they've been out there on the ice for the first time. So stay tuned to all of our socials for all of that. We will give you all of the updates that we can. And just love that we get to be here. Oh, go for it.
Yep. Dig into that pretzel, Dylan. I know you've been staring it down. You got to Yeah, actually, you know what? Before we go, let's welcome good friend Jonathan West here.
Hey guys,
How you doing?
I'm so great. So, you guys ready for Winter Classic weekend? Is it your first?
Yeah, it's our first Winter Classic.
Okay,
So
all right.
really
Excellent.
excited for that. So you also got to do the media skate too. I mean, what were your impressions from the media skate?
You know, the ice was pretty good. There was one there. So the first base side net. So the Kraken home goal. There's a few chips in there. So we'll have to see if they fix that ice between now and the what is it, 2 days from now?
Yeah.
But let me ask you guys some questions. So
All right.
is Decord? Is this Decord's team now?
Oh man!
Hey,
real
I'm
easy
hitting
question
you
here.
with
Real easy question there.
I'm hitting you with the hard stuff
Look,
right
I
now.
mean,
So
certainly in the short term it is, right? Like, as long as Grubauer is out, it's going to be Joey Decord's team based on what he's doing. And we talked about this a little bit on our post-game last night. If he's the goaltender delivering wins and you're a team chasing a wild card spot, you can't go away from him, right? Like, he is your guy at that point.
Yeah, and I know the contract situation does exist with Philip Grubauer, and in the long term, he's going to be a part of this team no matter what. And we talked about it on the deep dive a little bit last week, and I was a little bit more on the side that Hackstall was really going to ride Joey Decord as long as he's playing this well, and you kind of brought up the contract stuff, Dylan, in the long term. But Hackstall has shown he's going to play whoever the goalie is he thinks gives his team the best chance to win.
well, predictions now. Predictions for the Winter Classic, unless you've given them already.
No, we have
This
not.
will be our first.
Yeah, this would be our first.
I know, I'm hitting y'all with all. I'm glad we've had ESPN around each other, and I'm giving you guys questions
All right.
you haven't answered yet.
Yeah.
So.
Look, I'll go first here. I think it's going to start off a little bit slower. I think both teams are going to, take their time, figure things out, test each other a little bit. There'll be that kind of probing that we see at outdoor games from time to time. And then I think for the second period, Vegas is going to come out and really try to play their game, try to take advantage of the long change, try to really force things in transition, activate their D, let their D carry the puck if they need to, right? Just do whatever they can to really try to pour on the pressure and try to crack the Kraken while the Kraken are still trying to figure out what they want to be doing.
All right, so I think that's that's a good estimation there. I was thinking of a score in my head.
Well,
if we
yeah,
have to
I
pick
know,
a
I
score,
know.
Okay, and?
I'll go 3-2 Kraken in regulation. And I mean, the way I see it happening, like kind of slower first period, like we talked about. Vegas' transition game is so deadly. I think they'll get one there. I think Kraken will come up on the power play. They'll come up big. They'll win the special teams battle. The PK has just been lights out. I don't see the Vegas power play, really causing a ton of damage, even as good as it is, because the Kraken PK has just been so good. But I think the Kraken will add one on the power play, and then you'll have like one kind of weird fluky goal each, because that just seems to happen
way
in these
it goes,
outdoor
yeah.
games. But the Kraken will get the extra one.
All right, I'm going to go 3-1 Kraken. I think they get an empty net goal, something they struggle with, but I think the change of scenery will get it done for them. And I think Vegas being a little too aggressive is going to come back to bite them.
All right.
What about you?
Okay, I never give score predictions, but I'm going to go 3-0 Kraken.
Hey, the rare score
it-
prediction from you.
Well, you hardly ever hear one from me, but they're on a roll right now. They've had points in their last 7-8 games.
Yeah.
Is that right?
8 games.
I mean, you guys
8
know.
games,
You
8
guys
games.
are
8
you guys
games.
are the best independent coverage of the Seattle Kraken, and it's great to have y'all here at the Queen Anne Beer Hall.
Yep.
Of course, sponsoring your deep dive and player lineups and whatnot. It's been a great partnership over the last 3 years, and you guys really put your heart and soul into it. For those of you that are watching, invite your friends to watch these guys, because they really put everything into it. They're young guys that have really looked forward to an opportunity to cover a team like this, and with the Kraken being like open arms with them, it's been very special to see the evolution of how a grassroots effort really takes off. So keep following these guys. It's been great. Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks for the
in.
kind words, Jonathan.
Thanks for helping set this up too. You've been doing a great job here at Queen Anne Beer Hall as well, emceeing this whole thing, all the great stuff you've been doing.
Well,
It's
we
really
appreciate you. Yeah. Well, it's good to finally get Dylan's ass back up here in the PNW. So how about that? Thanks, guys.
Yep, sounds
Thank
good.
you. All right, everybody. I think that's going to do it for us from here at Queen Anne Beer Hall. Like we were just talking about, I got a pretzel calling my name. Thank you all so much for watching us, and stay tuned for more Winter Classic coverage.
Dig in, Dylan.